Being recorded. That always I gotta get used to ignoring that so we can just get right to it. I'm Eric Paul Johnson.
And I'm Eric Winsenson.
And I'm Bob. Got a smattering of comments from an array of episodes. There's stuff for leftovers from Eldorado Instrumental Medley, a whole bunch of stuff about Dark City, and a reply to a comment that we replied to about the Cosmo Kramer left us. Um, and I don't know why my head is blanking out that I can't just spit out some sort of Kramer references. It's been a long time since I've seen Seinfeld, as much as I love the show. I need to watch it more.
My favorite one with him is problem is that you have to see it to really get the impact of it. He just kind of walks into Jerry's apartment, picks up a pillow, fluffs it, and goes, yeah, walks right back out.
These pretzels are making me thirsty. I would think the one that you could relate to was the one where Kramer had kidney stones, and there in the circus, he finally passes them and screams so loud that he throws off the performance that's going on outside there.
That's not too far off from reality.
I believe it. I hope it...
I've had to hold in a scream or two so that I don't end up having the entire place come running in to see what's going on, because I don't want anybody to know what's going on.
What a way to be discovered. Eric, what's going on? Yeah. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like Friday the 13th. It looks like a scene from Friday the 13th in here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Men, keep track of your health. That's put it that way.
Yeah. Hopefully, I don't get that.
Yeah, I would not wish those on anybody except maybe a certain orange person with fake yellow hair. So.
Yeah, why hasn't he? He lives on a diet of nothing but soda and junk food.
I know. I try to actually eat decent. As fat as I am, I still try to eat decent because I really like to still eat what I want to occasionally and not be on your diet.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sweet Jesus. I miss Mexican Coca-Cola. That was great stuff.
It is.
But since the diabetes is mostly water, milk, Sprite Zero, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. The Mexican Coke I try to keep to maybe once or twice a month. It's a treat.
Oh God, is it a treat?
It's not every day's stuff to drink, even though I drink juice, which unfortunately, the way juice is made in the United States, it might as well be soda pop.
Yeah, it's pretty much soda without the fizz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't find anything decent that doesn't have tons of sugar in it. Especially since there's certain things I have to drink because of discussing before.
Yeah. So. Well, Sprite Zero is the only non-sugar soda I can drink because it doesn't taste like, old dishwater. Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi. I tried drinking those again when I found out I had diabetes, and I just couldn't do it. It tastes terrible.
I tried Diet Mountain Dew once.
Mm-hmm.
You would think that since it's based on orange juice, that there wouldn't be that much of a difference. There is.
There is. Yeah.
Also, current Mountain Dew with the corn syrup is just too sweet anyway. I used to drink that stuff all the time.
Oh,
my drink of choice.
I was never a big fan of Mountain Dew, so.
Yeah. Luckily, I never acted like anybody in a Mountain Dew commercial.
Yeah. But I am a big fan of E.L.O, which I believe is what we're here for, and not passing stones. Passing stones or what to drink to avoid getting stones.
Yeah, don't drink don't drink grapefruit juice, which I know is probably not hard for most people. However, I love grapefruit juice.
Yeah, but you're weird. You eat some sort of stink fruit and think it's great.
Yes, a lot of foods I like are either extremely spicy or extremely bitter. Yes.
Yeah.
I have that palate.
But other people have a palate for ELO. I'm trying to full circle bring this
Yeah,
back
trying to
to
full circle this
yeah.
back to E.L.O.
Yeah.
here.
First up, a leftover comment from is the El Dorado instrumental medley.
Ira Leboff says, or Ira Leiboff, or however, depending on what country they're from,
Mhm.
they're if they're from the U.S. at the moment or they're still in the old country. I was I was waiting for this episode. I love this song. I really like the "Can't Get It Out of My Head" part of the song. I actually think that it is done a little bit different than the actual song with the lyrics. It makes me wish that Lewis Clark remade many of the songs that we know and love as instrumentals. Oh boy, that would have been worth an entire album's worth. just instrumental, just the instrumental string tracks to ELO.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, symphonic, yes, never worked out right. Symphonic, other stuff that I've heard from other bands has never worked out right, but ELO was just asking for it.
Well, I think the Temple City Kazoo Orchestra really captured the essence of Led Zeppelin, so they were able to do it. There are a couple of videos floating around that are sort of like the El Dorado yeah. There's one for Out of the Blue and there's one for Xanadu. I would love if there were more for what else is there? Face the Music, a new world record, Time Discovery. Yeah. So more of that stuff. It's it's not somebody redoing them. It's like the El Dorado medley here, where it's the ELO tracks. They just took Jeff out of them. So, and they sound great, especially "Don't Walk Away" when those strings kick in. That usually in the regular song, my eyes roll back and but when I hear it, where it's just the music and the strings and not Jeff, not to knock Jeff because his voice is perfect on that song, but it's even more. Yeah. So yeah. If we can get more of those ELO instrumental medleys, that'd be great. Now, comments about Dark City. That was it. That was the name of it. And Mike Hudson said, "Interesting demo. To me, this sounds like it should have been a segue between songs on El Dorado. But where would it fit? I don't know. It's supposed to be an early version of Laredo Tornado, and I guess I can kind of hear that. As a songwriter myself, I know songs can go through some serious evolution. I can see it as a transition part on El Dorado. That would have been actually pretty cool if he couldn't figure out what else to do with it other than to turn it into Laredo Tornado. I think a transition track would have been neat. I've written little bits of songs that never became fully developed, only later on to take portions of those songs to write some totally different song later on, sometimes years later. And Paul Simon does the same thing. I've done the same thing too. I found an old notebook that had some early versions of a song I did with my band on our third album back in the 90s, and I was surprised to see how many different titles I'd come up with, and several sets of different lyrics as well. I think the chord structure was pretty much the same, but everything else about the song completely changed. I'm good at coming up with song titles, not good at coming up with words to go with those song titles. I need to I need to stop doing this podcasting thing and maybe work on the music thing and still get nowhere.
With the
I also have
podcast.
a song. What's that?
Stick with the podcasting.
Yeah. I also have a song from our first album that started out with a chord progression that kind of sounded like the main chord progression on Led Zeppelin's In the Evening, but later on sounded like the main but later on evolved into a more of a prog alternative sound with nods to U2 and David Gilmour. Songwriters borrow from old song ideas all the time, so I can totally see Jeff doing the exact same thing. Or maybe that would help my songwriting. Just, you know, steal from others, but since I'm not very good at playing things, what I would start to play as Papa Gene Blues comes out as something different and unsuable. So that works. Everyone wants to hear what Jeff has on those 2,000 cassettes he mentioned in an interview a while back. And I'm sure it'd be a lot more of stuff like this. Very short tidbits that would be hard to discern what the final product would sound like. If this hadn't evolved into Laredo Tornado, I'd like to have heard where it would have gone. The demo has just the right amount of weird to it. And I like that. Yeah, that was another reason why I liked it. And I would have liked to have heard where that haunted house story was going to go, as I said in the episode.
Yeah. Now I keep hearing the word evolve, which that means that I am now going to have to preach from the holy book.
Do you have one?
uh, well, I have a Ray Bradbury book at the moment right next to me. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just,
I think more people would be more interested in hearing from that than they would anyway.
I know I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like every atheist, I have about 5 or 6 Bibles. Because that way I can act that way, unlike the people who shouted at me on the street, I
Mhm.
can actually quote it correctly.
I tried once. Somebody gave me a Bible. It was, I don't know, 2003. And I'd never actually read it. I keep hearing all about it, so I'm just curious. So I started reading it, and I got about 18 pages in before this is boring. And a lot of the stuff, it seems like you can just make up what you want to apply to it to fit your view. Also, I did learn something. I had no idea Gomer was a biblical name.
Hmm.
Just thought it was something in the writer's room and Andy Griffith throwing out things. Goober, Opie, Gomer. All right, we'll use that. We gotta find a name for a guy. We gotta find a guy to play a guy named Gomer. So.
No, it's if you like literature, you like ancient literature, it's good to read parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because parts of it actually are interesting to read. Genesis is interesting, Exodus kind of.
Mm.
But you get into Kings, you're just looking at a list.
Um.
And then yeah, the New Testament stuff, the letters.
Well.
But the 4 Gospels, they yeah, story wise they're good, and then Revelations, of course, is worth it. But then the Bible is full of a lot of lists and letters and stuff like that, amongst all the stories that you know. Oh, Job. Job is always a good one to read on its own because Job has an actual interesting plot to it.
Mm.
You know, there's a lot of Job, which is just him sitting there on his pile of whatever complaining.
Well, maybe me and Job should hang out. I think we'd have a lot to relate to then. I didn't get that far in. It was an Old Testament, New Testament in one book, and I got about 18 pages into the Old Testament before it's just, I can't read this anymore. I'm bored.
Yeah, I mean I've read a lot of ancient literature.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of what my major was.
Oh, yeah.
Uh so I don't have as much of a problem with reading it. It's just that you're right. There are parts of it that are just boring.
Yeah.
Or um and parts of it that aren't even really made to be read as a book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um Proverbs, for instance, is exactly what it is. I mean, you don't read Ben Franklin's quotes just to read it from cover to cover. You read it to find, hey, what can I say? What's a good thing I can say in this particular situation to attribute to Ben Franklin? Same with Proverbs.
Well, I think my biggest problem with the Bible is there weren't any pages where I could color underdog or anything like that in there. So.
Well, there are versions of the Bible where you can do that, where you can
Oh.
color Noah's animals or whatever.
Is underdog in there?
I wouldn't be adverse to not to including them.
Oh, that'd be cool if it was.
Yep. And then the rains fell for 40 days and 40 nights, but underdog.
Cartoon underdog, not that stupid ass movie that came out a couple years ago. Anyway.
But Underdog was able to rally the Banana Splits, also not the stupid ass movie with them as psycho killers.
I forgot about that. Anyways, I thought we were talking ELO today. We're
We're talking E.L.O. today.
we're
Yes.
all over today. Yeah.
We are all over today. I'm next.
Yep.
So Corey Gomel says Laredo Tornado. Of course. I hear it. Not. If this is an early version of that song, my guess is that if you lock Jeff in a studio with his demo, maybe he'll come up with something interesting for the next album. It would come out an entirely different song. I see his demo as stepping stone to infinite possibilities, one of which was Laredo Tornado. I did see a small clip of Steve Miller working on his process, and it was fascinating. He was adjusting the tempo of a demo from rocker to ballad and every tempo in between to flesh out the song. That was just one small piece of his process, but still amazing to see and hear. Imagine that with Jeff. Imagine filming Jeff from demo to fully produced final edition of one song. That would be cool. Like all the pieces of the Diary of Horace Wimp. First, we film the inspiration, Jeff with headphones, listening to every Beatles song, LOL, to him coming up with a melody, playing with a vocoder, working with Lewis, the choir, etc. We can call this Jeff Lynne film A Day in the Life. Bet he'd like that.
Um,
Uh,
I,
yeah.
I mean, I would like it. ELO fans would like it. I know that Jeff has said, I mean, it was a long time ago, that people were like, oh, we'd love to come in the studio and watch you record. I bet it's fascinating. It's wonderful. And actually, if you're in a studio watching the recording happen, it's boring. I mean, if you're not the one fidgeting with the knobs and the sliders and playing the guitars and doing all that kind of stuff, it's boring to watch. I mean, there are documentaries of albums being made, and they're interesting because they have people producing documentaries who know how to make a documentary of something that is boring to watch interesting. Um, so yeah, I mean, I would love to see that. I would love to see the a document. I would love to see a documentary at a time. How do they make all those sounds? I know synthesizers, but there's got to be all kinds of widgetry and sliders and buffing and putting patching this to there and all that. It
A lot of that's done after the song's recorded.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, your documentary is basically having somebody sing the same line or do the same guitar line over and over again until the producer says that it sounds good.
yes,
Or and a half an hour of complaining about a hum in the background.
yes, yes.
Somebody figures out where the short is.
Yes,
So,
yes. That's pretty much how albums are made. They're boring to watch being made, but you put a little snippet here, a snippet there of a process that takes maybe 3 months to actually produce. You boil it down to an hour. You can get lots of interesting things about it. Um, but actually sitting there watching the process when you're not involved, you're just a witness.
yeah.
Jeff would say after about like maybe an hour or so, people would be like, I, I'm gonna go head to the pub. You guys let me know when you're done so I can get a ride home.
Somewhere, and it may even be on YouTube. I'm sure it's not too hard to find. I have it someplace around here too, I think. I just never had it moved to video because it's boring to watch. But there's Yes doing the Montrose sessions. Basically, they filmed the entire production, their entire studio production of Making Going for the One,
Hmm.
and back in the 1970s, and that's about what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you were to do a documentary for From Out of Nowhere or whatever the next album is going to be, I think it would be pretty boring. It would be, you know, I don't know if he's got anybody with him there, but it'd probably be Jeff pushing the record button, running out in front of the microphone, and or to his instrument that he's going to play, and you hear that one part, and then going back to the push stop, and that's that's not very interesting. Which is what I might say about the albums coming up, if I were to say anything early. Yeah. MJ Folds. Aw, you made Madeline cry. You fiend! That's not the first time I've been called a fiend. Although it was in satire the first time back in 1983 when I accidentally ran over a bird with a lawnmower.
Hmm.
Did she really find it scary? Yeah, she did. Pretty much right from the start. I could see the look in her face. And then it just got worse and she said no more and I was kind of like, there's only 20 seconds of the song left. Uh, do I just keep going and then but, it's pretty much the last 20 seconds were ow, 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 ow. I figured she'd heard enough by then, so yeah. I think that's the only one she's heard that she didn't hear all the way through. I do like the short demo. Suitably creepy, and I can hear the influence on Laredo Tornado, particularly how Laredo Tornado starts with that loud single guitar. Fascinating to hear the jumping off point. I wish we had a lot more home demos to hear. I don't mind them short. Just show us something behind the craft if you can't articulate much about them. Yeah, I'm glad there weren't a lot more home demos, if just for the podcast. Although I am surprised that we managed to get, 7 or 8 minutes conversation about a 30-second song. So, yeah.
Aaron Jansen says, good song, but I couldn't really hear the connection. Back in 2008, a guy mashed up the two songs together and it sounded really good. I've always been keen on Jeff doing a return to El Dorado, or at least a return to an orchestrated concept album that seamlessly flows between tracks with a big proggy instrumental opener and closer. I thought Rick Wakeman's Return to the Center of the Earth was good, and Ian Anderson's Thick as a Brick 2 was on par with the original in many aspects. Banker Bets, Banker Wins. Excellent song off that latter one there. Was on par with the okay. I've always wondered how much of El Dorado was written versus arranged. I wanted to ask that to Jeff on that Rockline fan call-in night, but an El Dorado question was already asked before I got on, so I had to ask a different question. I mean, take El Dorado Overture for an example. What did the demo of that sound like, or was it all Lewis Clark? E.L.O. Part 2's Moment of Truth suggests to me that it was more so in Mr. Clark's court.
Yeah, I'm thinking the demo of El Dorado Overture was Jeff meeting up with Lewis in the studio and saying, "I get something like this. Da, 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 da. Can you do that?" Sure, give me a couple minutes. I think that might have been the demo for El Dorado Overture. Uh, as for that mashup that you talked about, yes, I know about it because a week before the Dark City episode came out, Vinny Corbett wrote me. He listens to the podcast and said, "Hey, a few years ago I did this mashup. Maybe you can use it in the episode." And I told him, "Well, we kind of finished that episode about 12 weeks ago, so it's too late. But I will use it in the bonus tracks episode. It's actually pretty interesting. And I liked it. So, and also, I would have read that as Tob 2. I didn't even think Thick as a Brick 2. So it's a good thing it happened to wind up to being Eric's reading, Winsensen. Winsensen? Winsensen.
Yep.
I still can't figure out the angle
Yeah.
there. Damian Griffin. I never understood this going to Laredo. Doesn't sound a bit like it if the doesn't sound a bit like it, and if the story is true, I suppose you could, and I'm probably pulling strings at this, but how much influence did the other members really have over the final version of a song if that's where it started looking at where it went? Otherwise, a really odd song. I think for the final version, I don't think members of E.L.O. had any kind of say. During the making of it, they probably had plenty to say. I mean, Mike D'Albuquerque and Kelly Grocut said that, well, I guess the bass players have said that at least while they were in E.L.O., at least during the 70s anyway, it wasn't really Jeff Lynne coming in saying, "This is my song, play it, we're done, you guys can go away." That they had input. Mike D'Albuquerque said that E.L.O. wasn't a dictatorship with Jeff Lynne in charge. If he had an idea for a song, you know, he'd let him know. And if anybody had any ideas, well, you know what we could add to that song, and if Jeff liked it, yeah, sure. Um, Jeff gave free range to Kelly for the bass line of "Shine a Little Love," and I'm sure some other stuff too. I mean, um, Kelly sings most of the lead in Poker, if not all of it. So, but at the end, when Jeff Lynne's producer, I'm sure he's the final say on the final version of the song. And we replied to Cosmo Kramer's question last week about Mission and World Record, and he replied to us about our reply to his reply.
Says, hey guys, thank you very much for addressing my question about the subtitle in the song Mission a World Record. I enjoyed both your takes on what it means, but having heard both of your responses, with all due respect to Eric, I have to side with Eric Paul's interpretation that the alien observer is not announcing his presence to Earthlings via a record, but rather he is privately recording his observations of this strange, sending that information back to his ship or planet. Much obliged, gentlemen, for your insights.
No, thank you. And yes, I'm right. When Sensen's wrong, everything is right with the world.
Why do I always end up having to say I'm wrong to something with long hair?
Well, I'd think you'd be used to it by now.
Yes, after, oh God, what's it going to be this year?
Is your wife going to see this?
24. Okay, it's not 25 yet.
Mm-hmm.
My wife going to see this? Probably not.
Oh, okay. Well then.
Because, yeah, she'd have to ask permission to use the internet.
That's, yeah.
I'm kidding.
Oh, that should have been where we should have ended it. Okay, I think we've done enough here.
I think we're done here.
I think we're done here.